Welcome to Chuming with the Spirits, Whack Wednesdays. We have a whack story. I was going to say, it's probably going to be pretty interesting.
This one's called Cadet Richard Cox Disappears.
COX?
Yeah. Not going to go into Cox disappearing. Um, on
Like tripods.
on January 14th, 1950, Cadet Richard Cox, brilliant scholar and athlete with no known vices, was last seen in his room at West Point Military Academy, getting ready to meet an enigmatic stranger for dinner. Cox, happily in his career and engaged to be married, had received a mysterious visitor named George the week before. Cadet Peter Haynes took the call from the stranger asking for Dick Cox. Cox did not recognize the caller's name, but he knew the fellow when he saw him. The man, 6 feet tall, a medium weight and coloring, wore a trench coat. He teased Richard about his uniform while the cadet was getting his coat, and then they headed off base for dinner. He teased the Cox. A few hours later, Cox returned, inebriated, and fell asleep over his books. I thought he didn't have any vices.
Not bad vices, that's normal.
When taps sounded to signal lights out, he jumped up, startled, and shouted out an unidentifiable word, and then he dropped back onto his bed, fully clothed, to sleep again. The next morning, he told his friends that the fellow, whom he referred to by name, was a morbid, sadistic person who had been part of Cox's outfit when he was stationed in Germany in 1947. The man had been drinking and wouldn't let Cox out of his car until Cox indulged as well. Cox hoped it was the last he'd ever see of him. At dinner time on January 14th, George apparently appeared at the barracks again, and Cox went to the nearby Hotel Thayer for a meal with the man. Looking pensive in his long gray overcoat, Cox checked his watch and left the room, never to be seen again. No one noticed him leaving the barracks, and the sentries had no sign of George. When Cox was absent from his room in the morning, New York State Police issued a 13-state alarm. Every corner of every building on and around the academy was searched. Helicopters were part of the dragnet, and the academy's pond was drained. But to no avail, he was never found.
Missing cock.
Yeah.
Dick Cock?
Richard Cox, yeah. The fact that the guy appeared at his barracks, but they have no video or no.
What year was it? I mean,
1950.
yeah, video wasn't.
Yeah, that's true. But
And
no
what
one saw.
throws me off is that they were in the war together.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
1945. That's
Sense.
World War II. I don't know why he was a cadet, unless he was enlisted and going to become an off. Well, he was at West Point, right?
Yeah.
So he was enlisted
As an officer
No.
program.
Yeah, he was in the officers program. He was probably enlisted in the war, served with the gentleman, was becoming an officer, and
Do you think like CIA Black Ops, like he was recruited or something?
nah, not the way he described him. George was weird and wasn't curious.
So you're thinking like foul play, murder type thing, like covering up what that guy had done in war so that no one would ever say anything. That makes
War
sense.
crimes, yeah.
That makes sense to me.
What would be interesting is to find out what unit he is with and how many of those people actually mysteriously disappeared or died. True crimes people out there.
Yeah,
Look up
that's
Richard Cox.
That's
More than likely, that's what I would think. It's since he said it was morbidly, that there may have been some. He may have thought, and that's why he was getting him drunk to see if he'd say any of the stories.
interesting.
And he was covering up his tracks. War crime, probably.
Yeah. So the quote for this: all things appear and disappear because of the concurrence of causes and conditions. Nothing exists entirely alone. Everything is in relationship to everything else.
Hear that? You're never alone. There's somebody always watching you. Usually the government.
Yeah, that's interesting. I bet that's what it was.
I mean, that's with the only information they gave us. That's what I would would probably think, since they used morbidly.
Sadistic.
Yep.
So, yeah, let us know what you think in the comments if you've heard this story or if you've done research on it. Till next time.
Stay whacking.